Hey team, welcome along to the Better Dads Club podcast. I am your host, Tom Dorman, and in today's episode, this is the first episode, so I'm basically just going to be going through what the Better Dads Club is about, where it's come from, and a little bit of background on me. So let's get into it. Why Better Dads Club exists? Well, in my experience, entrepreneurship is isolating. Fatherhood is isolating, and I don't think that I'm alone in thinking that when you combine the two, the pressure multiplies. You're building a business, you're building a future for your kids, and you're also trying to stay present while doing both. And I feel like it's safe to say that no one really teaches you how to do that well. So, in essence, that's why Better Dads Club exists. But to explain it properly, I need to go back a bit. So, when we started Tom and Luke, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a snack food brand based here in New Zealand. I was single. I was in my late 20s. I was obsessed with building something meaningful. And for me, freedom was the goal. Luke was in his early 30s. He had a couple of boys under 5, and his priority was stability. Needless to say, there were a few differences in our risk tolerance profiles. But together with our business partner, Richard, we all believed in what we were building. We wanted to make better snack foods for people on the go than what was available in the market. And this had come from my background as a personal trainer, where I was working with CEOs and mums, people on the go, and myself in terms of the way that I was running my business and needed good quality snack foods and just wasn't happy with what was available at the time. And that's really at the heart of entrepreneurship, isn't it? It's seeing something and thinking, this could be done better. It's believing you can improve on something, whether that's a product, a system, a service. But what about your own life? How about creating a space where your children feel safe, seen, and loved, and you're improving on the experience that you had? I come from a working class family. So growing up, we were always living week to week, and money was always a stressful topic. So for me, of course, I was going to go all in at the opportunity to build a business that would set me up for life. Luke comes from a similar family background as me, similar socioeconomic levels, similar family values, and both of us had a father who was physically present but emotionally absent. And I've come to understand how that emotional absence led to both of us wanting to build something better for ourselves. But what made our venture more powerful, the vision more possible, more attainable, was that we weren't doing it alone. But building a business while raising a family comes at a cost. For example, there was a period where Luke would drive up from Papamoa to Auckland every Monday, stay with me for the week, help build the business, and then drive back on a Friday to see his family. At that time, I was in my early 30s and I justified it. Short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. And I know I wasn't wrong about the vision, but I didn't fully understand the weight of that sacrifice that Luke was making with a couple of young kids at home, essentially leaving his wife to manage the household on her own, because I didn't have kids. I didn't yet understand fatherhood, the sense of unease of spending long periods of time away from your kids. And now I do. Now I'm a single dad navigating co-parenting. I'm rebuilding my confidence, reconnecting to the things that bring me joy while keeping my attention and awareness on the needs of a young boy. And what's interesting to me is that as I'm raising my son, I'm also reparenting myself. Right? So what does that bring up for you? As I'm raising my son, I'm reparenting myself. I'm giving him the care and attention I didn't get from my father. And as I do that, I'm healing that part of me. I'm sure we're going to go through that as time goes on. Like I said, entrepreneurship is isolating. Typically, entrepreneurs are people that are wanting change, that are willing to move away from their social circles to focus on the things that they need to do to get their desired results. But in my experience, it's way more fun and you get better results when you're doing it with others. Fatherhood is no different. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is because we're not made for isolation. Secondly, no one person has all the answers. Thirdly, you get to share the load, and the child gets exposed to a wide variety of personalities, roles, tasks, philosophies. You get the idea. But I do feel like more importantly, just simply everything is better when you have others around you to share in the challenges and the rewards. Even solo athletes have support teams. It's about having people who are going through it with you to help pull you up when you're feeling down and for you to do the same when the shoe's on the other foot. What I've noticed is that mothers seem to naturally fall in with other mothers going through the journey. They form networks better. And look, I don't think this is necessarily a natural thing. I suggest that it's more because their mothers role modeled that behavior better than our fathers did. And let's face it, our mothers did too. Many of us young men were raised by single mums. And because of that, many of us have a false assumption that fathers should just be able to get on with it. But you know that's a lie. The statistics of men's mental health speaks for itself. The isolation felt by many fathers isn't normal. It's just that we haven't been taught how to ask for help, or we've been brought up believing that asking for help somehow implies weakness. So not long after my son's first birthday, my dad passed away, which means my son will grow up without a paternal grandfather, and I'll be raising him without guidance from my dad. Now, don't get me wrong, my dad was not a great male role model growing up, but even imperfect guidance can at least offer a different perspective. My dad was an alcoholic. He smoked a couple of packs of cigarettes a day, and in fact, his idea of exercise was walking to the dairy for another packet of cigarettes. He was aggressive, violent at times, rarely played with me or showed any interest in my interests. And I think my mum can count on one hand the number of times he took me to sports games or practices. And that's the reason for calling this Better Dads Club. Because I want to be a better dad than my dad was. And fuck, as you can probably tell, the bar is set pretty low. So I think about the impact that this lack of emotional presence and interest had on me. The pain of that void, the unconscious need to alleviate that pain, and how I chose to do that throughout my life with parties, drugs, alcohol, women, the need for validation and acceptance from my peers and those around me because I didn't get that from my father, the need to prove my worth externally because I wasn't worthy of his attention and affection as a kid. And if you're thinking, fuck, that sounds familiar, good. Well, then it means I'm not alone. It also means that you're not alone. So, hi, we're not alone. There are so many of us out there who are disappointed in our fathers and want to do a better job. But we're not talking about it because we don't know how to ask for help, because we don't want to be a burden for others, and also we don't know where to go to ask for help. But how do we grow and make the changes needed if we don't have a framework or the right guidance? When I was about 25 and working through my first low cycle of depression, one of my colleagues at Les Mills let me borrow her copy of Tony Robbins' Personal Power. And while that entire program is gold, something he said in there really stuck with me, and that was success leaves clues. So that is, if you want to be successful in a chosen field, find someone who is where you want to be and role model them. Find out what they did, how they are, and implement those changes. So that's what Better Dads Club is about. It's creating a community, creating a space where we can ask for help, where we can make mistakes, and we can fumble upwards together. By talking with dads and experts who have walked the path, who have the frameworks, who have advice and perspective and tips and tools, and taking their learnings, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sharing it, we all have the opportunity to be better. Now, my wheelhouse is physical health. Keeping bodies healthy and mobile so we can move through life. I want to be able to wipe my own ass at 90. But there is more to physical health than just exercise and nutrition. Psychic health, that is our mental, emotional, and spiritual health, are just as, if not more important. Because your body doesn't know the difference between the stress of a work deadline, an argument with your partner, or a high-intensity interval session at the gym. It's all just stress. So understanding this, it's important to know where stress is coming from in our lives and finding ways to reduce that load so we can be calm and stable and have the capacity to meet the needs of our children while having the energy to provide, protect, and lead fully. Now, we're going to get deeper into all of this in time and how to heal and improve ourselves. I'm really fortunate to have some great people around me who have helped me move into fatherhood and navigate co-parenting, as well as helping me reconnect with myself. I'm also lucky to know a lot of entrepreneurial dads who have walked or are walking the same path with great results. So I'm looking forward to the conversations and the insights we can take away from them. I'm also looking forward to being a part of your journey to becoming a better dad. The tools and resources here are here to be used. My dad was an intellectual. He knew a lot, but there's a difference between knowing something and applying something. As one of my mentors always says, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Because learning doesn't come from consuming, it comes from doing. And in time, it's this doing that becomes wisdom. Wisdom comes from people who have lived cycles, who have made mistakes, who have seen rises and falls. And part of Better Dads Club is reconnecting with that. Because we're not just raising kids, we're raising the next stewards of the world. And if you look around, it's obvious something's off. Some say we're living longer, but are we living healthier? Anxiety is rising, metabolic illness is rising, stress is rising, sedentary lifestyles are rising, lack of mobility is rising. And we're seeing it in our kids. More and more young kids are obese, anxious, and dysregulated. So the question becomes, what kind of environment are we creating? Because whether we like it or not, our actions or inactions are defining the world around us and the world of the future. And I'm sure you're aware that your kids will model more on what you do than what you say, right? I started smoking at the age of 11. I was told not to, and that it's not for kids, but growing up, both my parents smoked. The only kids I knew who didn't smoke were the kids of parents who didn't smoke. So as a dad, if you're raising boys, they will model what they see. If you're raising daughters, you're shaping what they expect from men. And that's a responsibility many of us overlook because, like me, many of us didn't have strong male leadership in the home. We're figuring this out in real time. And look, when it comes to health, we all have a unique biology that requires personalization. Not everyone is going to get results from getting up early and exercising hard. For some, that's incredibly stressful on the body and something that should be avoided. I'll say that again. For some, getting up early and exercising hard is incredibly stressful on the body and something that should be avoided. We'll get into that later. That said, there are foundation principles that work across the board, things like breathing, hydration, etc. And I believe the same is true for fatherhood. It is unique to the individual because what works in my home might not work in yours, and we all have different values, beliefs, etc. But that doesn't mean we give up. We've got to find the right framework to personalize. And communicating that and talking about it with others is what's going to help build those communities so that we can feel confident in the way that we personalize these frameworks. And remember that as entrepreneurs, we want to make things better. So we keep reviewing and making adjustments until we find what works for us. And at the heart of it, I think all dads are entrepreneurs. All dads want to do better or be better or make things better. And then when we share it with others, that's how we build community. And community creates safety. And safety reduces anxiety. And calm, stable fathers create calm, stable homes. And calm, stable homes create calm, stable, confident kids. Look, Better Dads Club isn't about being perfect. It's about strengthening foundations. Physical health, mental clarity, emotional presence, purpose, protection, provision, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And doing that alongside other men who care, not competing, not posturing, learning, sharing, building, and having some fun with it. Because the men around you influence your children. At some point, your children will look beyond you for guidance and support. In his book, Raising Boys, Stephen Biddulph talks about that being around the age of 12 to 14, when boys will look for other male role models to help guide and shape them as they become men. So who are you surrounding yourself with? I don't have all the answers. I'm figuring this out as I go. And like I said, I just know I want to be better than my dad. I also know I can't do this alone. And I know we're not meant to do this alone. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child because no single one of us has all the answers. And we're not here to create clones of ourselves. We're social creatures. Community is literally how we became the apex species, by helping and supporting each other. And camaraderie is how men survive wars. And let's face it, in those first couple of years of having a little one, it's a bit of a fucking battle. So I'm here for the conversations. I'm here to learn from the elders, from the experts, from dads in the trenches. I'm here to send the elevator back down, and I'm here to be a dad my son can be proud of. So if this resonates, join us. subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. And I invite you to head over to Substack and subscribe there too, so you can be a part of the conversation directly and be aware of any live meetups that we do. Because look, I feel like in the last couple of years, we've forgotten how to community. We have isolated ourselves. There's mass division. And maybe with this is how we can come together for a common cause, to be better dads, to raise better, stronger, healthier kids, and to leave the world a little bit better than we found it. Thanks for listening. And hey, please share this with a friend or a brother or colleague who you feel could benefit from this as well. I'll see you in the next episode.